this on? Great, thanks. So thank you very much for the invitation to speak today. And I totally echo the comments that Janet and Brian made about the strong need for tax reform. The U.S. has the highest corporate tax rate in the industrialized world, and that is what's driving a lot of the investment overseas, and it's something that the NRF has been probably the biggest supporter in trying to change over the last many years. So let it be clear, whatever our position on a border adjustment tax, which is a feature of a tax reform plan, we are very strongly in support of moving forward on tax reform that lowers the rates and puts us in a competitive place. And that will drive investment back into the United States. Let me also be clear, I heard the economists say earlier how the Brady plan would end up causing the economy to grow, and I know that there are some economic studies that show growth in the economy over time. Let me be clear that it will harm the retail industry, and the retail industry will not grow under the Brady plan for a very long time, and this is an industry that employs 1 in 4 Americans. So I think that we will see a lot. What you will see is this transitional state being very harmful because of the large role that retail and consumer spending plays in the economy right now. We all know the state of the retail industry is in transition. The tax policy proposals will exacerbate the contraction in the industry and harming the 1 in 4 Americans we employ as well as our consumers. It probably sounds like typical Washington rhetoric, alarm bell sounding, but let me just give you some background and tell you why I truly believe this. If you looked at the last holiday season, you would see that large segments of the retail industry saw their holiday sales decline dramatically. We saw a 7% decline in holiday sales in department stores. We saw declines in declines in sales in general merchandise, appliances, electronics, sporting goods, many sectors of the retail industry. As a result of that, we saw many store closures. We saw tens of thousands of layoffs. The House blueprint moves the federal corporate income tax system towards a consumption tax system. We heard all the economists say that, and we agree with that. This will cause retail sales to decline further. According to a recent economic analysis for the NRF, retail sales will decline under the plan without the border adjustment for 7 years. The impact of the border adjustment is that the decline in retail sales will be deeper than it otherwise would be. Yes, there's significant controversy among economists about whether the dollar will strengthen to offset the costs to importers of the tax. And even if it does strengthen, economists question how long it will take for that adjustment to happen, and whether the adjustment will completely offset the increased cost of purchases. I want to comment on one of the things that in the previous panel where the economists say that contracts would be renegotiated. I have surveyed our members to ask them what they have done when we've seen the dollar strengthen a lot over the last short period of time. And I have surveyed our members to see whether they had any opportunity to renegotiate prices with suppliers based on the dollar strengthening. And the answer is no. There is no opportunity once those contracts are set. First of all, those contracts are all in dollars, and I think that we've heard that before. But the other thing is that you can't renegotiate until you're into the next contract. So certainly there is you would not be able to get any benefit from a dollar strengthening, at least in the short term. Obviously, this is going to have an impact on prices, at least in the short term, until that can happen. And we also know that economists, even some named economists that have been supporting this proposal will agree that under border adjustment, there will be a preference for consumption of non-tradable goods over tradable goods. This group knows what that is. What we sell are tradable goods. So there will be a preference for Americans to consume non-tradable goods over what we're selling. Even after this is even after an exchange rate might be negotiated through. So let me just give you a little background on retailers and where they stand in taxes. Retailers have one of the highest effective tax rates out there. With state taxes, our federal effective tax rates are about 37%. It's very high. We pay just about the top rate, even just without the state aspect and added in. This proposal would cause our effective tax rates to skyrocket. We have many members who will have tax burdens that are larger than their profits. In the specialty apparel area, for example, we're told that 90 to 100% of the goods that are sold are imported. And in that case, our companies are telling us that their effective tax rate would be 3 to 5 times larger than their profits. There will be no choice for retailers but to pass this cost forward to their consumers. The only other choice is for them to go out of business. So this will move forward to consumers, and I think our economists that previously spoke would probably agree to that. This is a consumption tax. The consumer will pay it. There well may be an increase in wages if there is growth in the economy. I don't think that the wage increases will match a 15% price increase that many of our retailers say they would have to pass forward. And so I believe what consumers are going to feel, at least for several years until this is truly transitioned in, is that their standard of living will decline compared to where they are today. They will not be able to buy as much. We know gas prices are going up. We've seen the studies on that. We know that apparel, electronics, food, everything in the economy, prices will go up. The two things that I find essential in the economy, coffee and chocolate, are based on imported products, so I know those prices are going up. So the consumer will absolutely feel this. And so I think we just have to recognize that there are no free lunches. This may pay for a repeal of the estate tax. This may pay for some other very nice tax cuts, but it's the consumer that's going to be paying for that. Just to also comment, because others have brought up the fact that all the countries around the world that have VATs, and why are we so uncomfortable about going towards a VAT? What's the history of VATs? They started like our sales taxes, and we do have state sales taxes in 45 states plus the District of Columbia. They started at relatively low rates, and they increased over the years, and most of them have more than doubled. They are on top of corporate income taxes in all of those countries, as well as individual income taxes. But they will gradually increase. You're now talking about a 20% tax on consumption on top of state sales taxes that are in a range of 5 to 10%. This is a dramatic hit to the consumer all at once. It's not a gradual thing to get used to. The other thing, and I think that our conservative economists on the last panel would probably comment on this, many of those countries that rely on that use them to pay for some very extensive social programs that help offset the regressivity of high consumption taxes. I don't think anybody is offering anything to offset that, and that's a concern too. So I'm going to conclude with that, and just to say that at least one industry that, you know, is probably the largest employer, is going to feel some real repercussions from this move into border tax and consumption tax.
Thanks, Rachelle. I'm Rick Woldenberg. We have a family business called Learning Resources, and we make educational products like My First Microscope. We're based in Chicago. You know, in listening to what everyone had to say, I'm very impressed at our common interest in the subject. I think that in many respects we all want the same thing. But, you know, it's a diverse economy. And we're kind of in different situations, even though we're all completely entwined. So I make this product in China. I develop it in Chicago. The intellectual property is owned in the United States. More or less 100% of our assets are in the United States, so more than Dow. I sell in 80 countries. I have an office in the UK. This was probably made with Janet's pellets. I've seen bags of Dow pellets in our factories. My customers belong to Rachelle's trade association. So, like, we're all in this together, but it's different situations. And, you know, I think that we're sort of a poster child of a victim of this plan. And I'm against it. And I'd encourage you to not fall victim to the reasoning of the lemming effect. You see everyone in front of you in line jump off the cliff. Doesn't mean you should do that with enthusiasm, too. In our case, we're in a cutthroat business. I don't want you to think that it's all Skittles and beer for me. We make microscopes. We do not have a patent on the concept of microscopes. They were invented long before me. If any of you want to make a microscope, you can go ahead and do it. And a lot of my competition comes from China. I'm still in business. So obviously I can compete against them. So the notion that the system is like stacked against me is frankly a lie. And I have to compete with them. So I'm located in Chicago. I make these products in China. I compete with Chinese manufacturers of microscopes, and I can compete. I sell these in the United States against them. I sell them in the UK. I sell them elsewhere. The notion that currencies are going to solve all my problems is also bogus. That's the best I can tell you. We have an office in the UK. There's 30 people working for us there. And this week we're going to raise our prices a lot. Learning Resources has not raised prices in 2 years. So we're traumatized by this. And the letter we're going to send to our dealers has said that we cannot make it one day more. We have to do it. If you spend a little time on Google or you go to my blog, borderadjustmenttax.com, where I have the articles for you to read, you'll see that Apple raised the cost of apps 25% and MacBook by 25%. Tesla went up by 5%. The cost of Marmite went up. Remember, it's an integrated supply chain. The cost of Christmas pudding in the UK went up 21%, and that's baked in the UK. Why did it go up 21%? There are no sugar plantations in the UK, so they have to get their sugar from someplace. So it's a global supply chain. And I know, because I am actually raising prices in the UK, that I can promise you I'm going to raise prices on this product if I have to pay a 25% tax on this, because I'm an S Corp. And we currently pay 43.6% as a good old Illinois S Corp on our worldwide earnings. So when I sell this in England to someone in France and I make money on it, I pay Illinois rates on that. So, you know, we have common interests, and I agree with what you say about some of the things about an S Corp. But this plan is not good for me if it kills me. So, you know, John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run, we're all dead. I just don't want to be dead now. Okay, so I think that's a problem. I want to emphasize to you that small businesses are in the center of the bullseye of this law. I'm in favor of tax reform. Come on, this is obvious. But 97% of American importers are small businesses, employees with under 500 employees. Again, this is from the Census Bureau. There were 183,000 small businesses that imported. They import, on average, $1.5 billion a year per congressional district. in the United States. There's 435 of those. I am not the only one. 85% of U.S. foreign liabilities are denominated in dollars. Again, it's not just Rachelle's members who source in dollars. I do too. It's logical. You take the currency risk out of your business. So what happens to me? Well, my tax rate, according to my actual 2016 numbers, I'm sorry, that's the wrong term. My tax rate goes to 25%. We should applaud that. My tax bill goes to 165%. That's why I die. And that's not good. Now, when I model this, and I'm happy to send you my models, I've sent out model companies, not my financials. But when I try to guess what happens when Holtz-Eakin and Auerbach's theory doesn't work, and there is economic theory that backs that up, exchange rates follow a random walk. So when their promise doesn't come true and they're not offering me a guarantee, I try to model like, what would I do? I know I wouldn't have the nerve to do what my model says. And the model says, raise your prices by 1/3, expect your volume to go down by 40%, and fire 1 out of 5 people. I don't want to do any of those things. What I wanted to do was not raise my prices, because I sell a lot more product if it's cheaper, right? So I don't want to raise my prices, and I don't think I'd ever have the nerve to do that. But that's the world I see coming, and I can't afford that. I'd like to also debunk one other thing. Where I spend my money on CapEx is where I make my product. I make a choice to put my money into receivables, inventory, and marketing. I do not make the choice to put it into machines that melt Janet's pellets. Someone else owns those machines and I rent them in China. So my tools are in China. I do not expect to be able to deduct that CapEx. That cost me real green American dollars to build, but I will not be able to deduct those. So I will not get the benefit of that part of the blueprint. In any event, a lot of complex issues here. I just wanted to sensitize you to the fact that there's a lot of good, valid, small businesses that you depend on that are like me in a wide array of industries, and they're all facing these problems. There's 183,000 of us employing many millions of Americans. Thank you.
Thank you. And before we turn over to questions, I thought did any other panelists want to react to any of the other panels?
First, thank you. It's always tough for me to hear the other side. That being said, I think we all need to, as we try to get more details with regard to the proposal, that we need to make sure we understand exactly the advantages of the proposal. I think a lot of times the negativity comes when you just focus on the border adjustment and what that might do, particularly in the short run on prices. That the tax rates are going to go down. You're going to have a better international system. You're going to have expensing. There is some disadvantage of not being able to get the interest deductibility, and we recognize that. But when you put it in total, it's a much better and stronger tax system. Some say that all you have to do is rip out the border adjustment proposal and everything might be perfect. All to say from companies that are U.S.-based companies that have global operations, you can't get to a very good international system without having something like the border adjustment proposal. The border adjustment proposal makes things very clean, as we heard on the first panel. And companies that are based in the United States are very eager to get that. So that was the only thing. You just got to look at the whole proposal and not just the border adjustment proposal. I don't know if everybody's seen it.
Sure, no, and Rick, I appreciate your comments and I take everything you said very seriously. But, as Janet indicated, right now we have a tax system that's encouraging companies to move operations, employment, IP, headquarters overseas. And until we do something about that, that is going to continue. So the idea that we don't want to move towards a big tax plan like what Brady's put forward, there's a lot of moving parts to it. They're going to have to come up with something to address that trend. And moving to territorial is one of the ways, and it's the only way really, to stop companies from moving their headquarters overseas. Coming up with a competitive tax rate so that people want to invest in the United States as opposed to someplace else is the way to stop base erosion and profit shifting. And the question is, okay, how do you make that all work together? And that's where the border adjustment comes in. And what I take away from Rachelle and Rick is that, you know, we need to do a much better job of explaining not just how it's going to work and how, you know, sort of the fact that the border adjustment is tax policy, not trade policy. But also we need to talk to the folks up on the Hill and make sure, and I believe Kevin Brady made this clear at the chamber the other day, that they're looking at transition issues and making sure that whatever they do, it's not going to torpedo Rick's business.
All I would comment is that, and I think I said this before, I just to leave this audience here, a trade audience, not a tax audience, we all know this. You know, we all have been studying many different tax reform plans for the last several decades since 1986, and there have been many. And there are many other ways of accomplishing things that Brian just talked about. And while the United States has been watching, and to echo what Dan Mitchell said, our competitors have all dropped their corporate tax rates, and we have not. And so we've allowed this to happen to ourselves. That is the drive for why U.S. companies have been moving headquarters and other things overseas because we are so uncompetitive on the rate. But there are many ways to address this. When Dave Camp was chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, he put out the most comprehensive proposal we've probably seen in those decades that addresses this without moving to a border tax, without moving to a consumption tax. The ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, Ron Wyden, has put out bipartisan proposals several times in the past that would get us to a 24% corporate income tax rate, lower than Camp had proposed, again, without a border tax, without moving to a consumption tax. There are ways of doing this without putting this burden onto the American consumer, and we obviously would support efforts to achieve the tax reform we need to keep American companies here and competitive, and at the same time not do it on the backs of the American consumer.
And I would say, be careful what you wish for, you might get it. The 25%, the promised 25% increase in the value of the dollar takes the British pound to parity, takes the euro to 80 cents, and probably breaks the Hong Kong peg and sends Ecuador into depression. I can tell you that we get lower prices in China when China has extra capacity, not when oil goes down or when the dollar goes up. So if we're to save like Holtz-Eakin would like us to save, the word that should come to mind is depression. You need a depression in China for me to get that money, and I have a hard time making a case that a depression in China is good for us. This is sort of like when someone jumps off the diving board in the pool and screams cannonball. I really don't know what happens after this, and I hope we can find another way to bring tax relief.
When I do, cannonball is a big splash. So let me ask you this, because in sincere, over the last 3 years, I think the dollar's appreciated 25%, maybe 30%. Just in the last few months, it's appreciated about 6%. How have you handled that? Is that why you're raising prices in the
I did not pay him to ask that question. So I read the Wall Street Journal, and I go marching down the hall to the supply chain whenever there's an article on the front page of the Wall Street Journal saying the yuan fell again. And I say, guys, let's get some of this for us. I have 0 cost reductions I can show you from the fall in yuan. In fact, any of you that source in China are hearing that corrugate prices are skyrocketing and your manufacturers are asking for price increases right now. So I'm going to stand by what I said, which is what I believe, which is that what drives price reductions in our supply chain is capacity. It's all supply and demand. It's not commodities. Commodities are an effect just like labor, so it's in the background, but the dominant factor, the thing that really causes prices to move, is capacity. And that's what we see in this economy too. So I haven't And it's possible we haven't because we're like no good at what we do, but the fact is we haven't.
So I was actually going to ask you about the price increases on the UK side. Is it, is the, you know, I'm not, this is not pejorative, but I'm just curious, is the appreciation of the dollar caused you, is that the reason you haven't raised prices?
Yeah, absolutely, 20% since June 23rd. That's why everybody has. Why do you think Apple raised apps 25%? It's not like their cost for electrons went up.
But, you know, I want to relay an anecdote that one of our members told us the other day. And, you know, you have to look at what the elasticity of demand is for these consumer products. So maybe you raise prices, but does it mean you're selling as much? And this particular retailer told us that who sells branded products where the brands do not allow you to actually cut their, you have to sell at a certain price, you can't undercut it. They want all of the retailers that sell their particular products to be able to sell it at the same price point. So in this case, she said one of her brands just increased the price of a particular product by 20%. This was prior to the holidays. She said her sales of that product went down by 50%. The consumer responds to changes in prices. So the fact that, you know, you may increase your price because, you know, to respond to currency changes, it doesn't mean your consumer's going to be buying from you.
Well, let's turn to questions now from the crowd, if that's all right. I will say something Rick said in his first comments definitely hit home with me, which is the next weed event we need to have serve Skittles and beer. Why don't we go